I never imagined my grandma's heartbreaking journey would lead to an unbelievable transformation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun was a bright orb, too bright for the heavy clouds gathering inside our hearts. I stood there frozen, as her laughter echoed in my mind, a haunting melody that blurred the harsh reality of the hospital room. I felt small, powerless, like a deer caught in headlights. My grandma, always vibrant, full of stories and warmth, was now frail and lost. The machines beeped with a relentless rhythm, punctuating the silence that enveloped us like a thick fog. The scent of antiseptic burned my nostrils, a cold reminder of her struggle for breath. I could see the fear in her eyes, the way her trembling hands clutched the bedsheets, hoping for answers that never came. She'd always told me the strangest tales of whispered secrets in the attic, and shadows that danced during storms. But now the only story unfolding was the agonizing fight against the cancer that had invaded her body. I barely recognized her thin frame, the vibrant blue of her favorite cardigan making her feel like a ghost instead of the woman I adored. My heart ached for each gasp she took, the heaviness settling like a weight on my chest. I fought to stay strong, but the tears slipped out anyway. Memories flooded me like a rushing river. Baking cookies in her kitchen, filled with the sweet scents of vanilla and chocolate. Her hands, how they felt like home, soft and reassuring, guiding mine as we created magic together. But now she lay there and I didn't know how to reach her. What could I do to save her from this nightmare? The doctors were grim, their faces a mask of professionalism that couldn't hide the pity pooling in their eyes. I couldn't bear it. They spoke in riddles, numbers dancing in my mind, yet all I heard was the silence of hope slipping away. I felt the walls closing in, suffocating me. My family was scattered like leaves in the wind, each one grappling with their own pain, and no one had the energy to hold our shattered pieces together. Then something changed. A stranger entered the room. A tall woman with a warm smile, wearing a soft lavender scarf. She approached my grandma, her voice a soothing balm in the chaos. "I know how to help you," she said, captivating us as if she had just stepped out of one of Grandma's stories. I felt a flicker of something. Was it hope? But who was she? What could she possibly offer that modern medicine could not? As the nurse nodded, intrigued, the air thickened with anticipation. "Will you trust me?" the woman asked, and I felt my heart race. The question echoed in my mind. My grandma looked between us, a faint spark igniting in her weary eyes. I held my breath. Could this be the impossible answer we had been searching for? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The woman's presence seemed to bring a fragile warmth that wrapped around us, offering comfort amidst the sterile chill. My grandma's eyes, once clouded with fear, now glittered with a curious light. I couldn't look away. This stranger appeared as if she had been summoned from the depths of Grandma's cherished stories, an embodiment of magic in a world filled with stark reality. "Trust is all I ask," the woman repeated, taking a step closer. I held my breath. Granite walls that I had erected around my heart began to crack, as if her voice possessed the ability to seep warmth into the icy space of despair that had taken residence there. My grandma exhaled softly, subtly nodding, and in that moment, impossibly, the foundations of my hopelessness trembled just enough to let in a flicker of light. "Who are you?" I found myself asking, my voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Elena," she said, smiling gently at me before focusing on my grandmother. "I'm here to guide you through this." She spoke as if she held secrets of the universe, keys to locked doors. I couldn't tell if it was her calm demeanor or the vibrancy of her lavender scarf that infused some modicum of relief, but I felt myself inching toward her world of possibility. "What do you know about her?" I pressed, protecting my grandma like a protective shield. Elena's gaze was steady. "More than you can imagine. Every soul carries stories, and sometimes they just need a little help to be told." Stories. Grandma's endless tales wove through the threads of my heart, a tapestry stitched with humor, wisdom, and love. Could a story be the lifeline we needed? I looked at my grandma, her frail body enveloped in the happy blue cardigan, and thought of every moment we spent weaving dreams. What if Elena could help us gather those memories, strengthen her spirit as she fought this unrelenting battle? When Elena offered her hand, it was as if she extended a bridge over the chasm of grief we were sinking into. Together we can create a new chapter, she promised. My grandma grasped Elena's hand, and a slight tremor of energy flowed through us. Was it just me? Or did the air brighten just a touch? I was scared to hope, but a tiny ember ignited in the back of my mind. Maybe there was something in this moment, this chance. But as whispers of hope began to entwine around us, doubts clouded my heart. The medical fate still loomed large. Days were dragging on, each one adding weight to our already burdened souls. I glanced toward the window, where the sky threatened rain, dark clouds morosely looming as if to mirror our pain. Later that evening, I found myself staring blankly at the wall in the ICU waiting room, my thoughts swirling like the storm outside. My family was broken. Conversations fragmented into silence where they once sang in harmony. Everyone was lost in their own sorrow, each facing their grief in private corners. The distance felt insurmountable, and for a moment, I battled with the urge to shut everyone out, to cocoon myself in the fear that had gripped me so tightly. But as I wrestled with my inner demons, a soft tap broke my reverie. It was a nurse entering quietly, her expression steady yet sympathetic. She offered no words, only handed me a small cardboard box. "Your grandma had this for you," she said softly, eyes glimmering with a knowing warmth. Inside, buried among tiny bits of colored paper, I found a single handwritten note. It read, "Every storm must pass to let the sun shine through. Remember the laughter. It's waiting just around the bend." It was Grandma's handwriting, the familiar loops looped with love. A surge of emotion crashed against me, and tears flowed freely. I was bewildered, nostalgia and longing colliding violently. It was a simple note, yet it carried the weight of a lifetime. How was it possible that she still spoke to me, even in sickness? The laughter, how had I forgotten? The scent of fresh cookies, the sound of our shared giggles under the kitchen lights. Wasn't that sunshine? I clutched the note to my chest, a lifeline in the tumultuous waters of despair. Yet just as my heart began to swell with warmth, a commotion erupted outside. The nurse's calm demeanor shifted to concern as she stepped back into the corridor. I followed, my stomach twisting into knots. A family member, my uncle, holding his head in his hands, was surrounded by doctors. "Something's wrong with her," he gasped, his voice cracking, the very edge of hope I had clung to threatening to crumble. They're saying fear encircled me tighter than I had ever felt. My heart raced and I swallowed hard, already foreseeing rain instead of sunshine. Just as the blinds rattled against the glass, a deep thunder rumbled in the distance, mimicking the storm brewing within me. Barely comprehending what might be unfolding, I forced my way through the crowd, fighting against a tide of dread. But as I pushed through, I felt the note in my pocket, a reminder that stories were woven from struggle, strength, and heart. Whatever was set to unfold, whether it deepened our pain or illuminated our paths, I would not lose faith that I needed to be strong. For her. For myself. And maybe, just maybe, for all the laughter waiting to be found. The ICU corridor twisted like a labyrinth, the sterile air thick with the tension of whispered fears and hurried footsteps. My heart raced alongside my thoughts, each frantic beat echoing in my ears. The world around me blurred into muted shadows as I fought through the mounting hysteria. I had experienced unbearable heartache before, but nothing prepared me for the anxiety flooding through me now. As I reached my uncle, his face was an unreadable mask of anger and sorrow. "They don't know what's happening," he stammered, his hands trembling as he ran them through his hair. "They're trying to stabilize her, but something's off." Waves of uncertainty washed over me, threatening to pull me under. The suffocating reality that we could lose Grandma sent shockwaves through my being. But just as I felt myself enveloped in darkness, an unexpected voice pierced through the chaos. Elena. She had appeared at the edge of the crowd, her presence shining through like a beacon in a storm. "Everything will be all right," she assured my uncle, her voice steady and soothing. "Trust me." The moment seemed impossibly surreal. Why did she inspire such a sense of calm when all I could feel was despair? I glanced at the note in my pocket, the words, the laughter waiting just around the bend spiraling in my mind. Did I dare believe that laughter was still a possibility? With newfound resolve, I turned to Elena. What can we do? I questioned, my voice cracking under the weight of desperation. Elena caught my gaze, the depths of her understanding shimmering. Sometimes we must remind those we love of who they are, even if they can't find their way back themselves. She nodded toward the door. Let's help her remember. I wasn't sure what that meant, but the urgency of the moment propelled me forward. I followed Elena to Grandma's room, my heart pounding in sync with the rhythmic sounds of machines monitoring her fragile state. I inhaled sharply as I stepped inside, each breath mingling anxiety with the lingering scent of antiseptic and memories. For a few moments the world outside vanished. My grandma lay there, a shadow of the vibrant woman who had occupied my thoughts for so long. A slight twitch of her fingers and the curve of her lips suggested there was still life left in her. Yet the stillness felt as foreign as a ghost. Grandma, I whispered, stepping closer. It's me, your favorite storyteller. I felt a flutter of courage, infused by the presence of this quiet woman beside me, guiding me. The desperation to connect surged through me as I dared to hold her frail hand. Elena took a step closer, eyes locked onto Grandma's face. She began to recount stories of laughter tales about baking cookies together when I was little. The surprise birthday party with the floral arrangements Grandma had once adored. How she had always known how to bring sunshine into a cloudy day. Every word flowed from Elena's lips, as if she was gently stirring awake the threads of memory woven deep within Grandma's heart. I joined in, adding details, laughing at the absurdity of our kitchen disasters, recalling the comfort of her hugs during storms. Then something remarkable happened. Grandma's eyelids fluttered, as if the sound of our words wrapped around her like a warm, familiar blanket. Her lips parted ever so slightly, forming a smile that illuminated the dark room like a lighthouse gleaming through fog. Elena, I whispered, bewildered by the dawning light in my grandmother's eyes. Do you think she can hear us? We already have her, Elena replied, her voice barely above a whisper, yet bursting with belief. She's here. Keep talking. The memories will guide her home. Thus we wove a tapestry of laughter and love, each shared moment acting as a thread stitching Grandma's spirit back together. But just as the atmosphere began to rise with hope, the door swung open again, a sharp gust of reality breaking the warmth we had begun to create. A doctor strode in, his face set in a serious mask. We need to talk, he said curtly, eyes flitting back and forth. My heart sank, the joy we had summoned suddenly, weighted down by the gravity of his presence. There's been a complication, he continued, and my world began to spin. Elena, I breathed out, searching for her presence, but she was absorbed in the shadows of the room, watching intently. Your grandmother's body is struggling to fight, the doctor rushed on, his words tumbling out like raindrops ready to drown me in despair. We have options, but they come with risks. Risks? My voice trembled, the warmth in the room seeming to evaporate like steam. What do you mean? Elena stepped forward, her expression steady as she looked into the doctor's eyes, and I could sense a shift, the urgency of a storm brewing again. We will do everything we can for her, she insisted. But sometimes it requires deeper trust than we can fathom. The doctor hesitated, deep lines etching across his forehead. I can't promise anything, he said finally. The weight of his words crashed down, overwhelming me with a tumult of fear and uncertainty. I felt trapped as if the very walls were closing in. As Elena's hand found mine, squeezing with encouragement, her gaze burned with fierce determination and something akin to hope. With my heart racing and uncertainty lacing every syllable, I asked, what do we do now? As silence enveloped us, the answer hung tantalizingly close, yet shrouded in mystery. Would I have the strength to face the truth of what was coming? Would Grandma's stories be enough to echo through the darkness she faced? And just as I steeled myself for the fight ahead, a sudden revelation flickered in my mind, an unexpected spark ignited in the depths of my chest. I hadn't just come for my grandma, I had come for us both, and I would not let her light fade away without exploring every possibility. Tell her the stories, keep her here, I uttered, feeling the certainty flow through my veins. Somehow, in that moment of chaos, we would find our way through the storm together. The air within the hospital room seemed to thicken, a swirling blend of hospital antiseptic and the raw scent of fear that wafted from every corner. I felt the weight of the doctor's words pressing down, wrapping around my chest as if trying to extinguish the flickering flame of hope that had ignited within me. In that moment, the quiet strength emanating from Elena seemed to surge through me, a lifeline steering me away from the depths of despair. Together, I whispered, my voice scarcely breaking the silence. We'll do this together, Grandma. I grasped her hand tighter, willing the warmth from my palm to seep into her soul, my pulse a steady reminder of life coursing through me. My heartbeat became a metronome, a rhythm for the stories I was determined to share. Elena stepped back, creating a space where I could unfold my heart completely. What stories would you tell? She encouraged softly, her voice wrapping around me like a comforting shawl, urging me onward. I looked back at my grandmother, her face still so pale but now softened by the memories lingering in my mind. Do you remember the summer at the lake? I asked, my voice pulling from the depths of my past. You taught me how to fish, even though I tangled the line more than I actually caught anything. I chuckled softly at the memory, a bittersweet smile crossing my lips. I could see her, vibrant and alive, sitting at the wooden dock, a wide-brimmed hat shielding her face as she stared patiently at the water. It felt as if I was painting from a canvas that refused to fade as I continued to share, describing the thrill of my first catch, the ensuing joyful shouts, and the way she laughed. The shadows in the room seemed to pull back, revealing glimmers of light. I poured my heart into every syllable, summoning the essence of who she was: fierce, loving, and unyieldingly compassionate. Elena watched, a knowing smile illuminating her face, as if she could feel the threads of connection stitching us closer together amid the chaos of uncertainty that surrounded us. With each tale, I sensed Grandma's spirit responding. I paused, taking a deep breath, feeling the air in my lungs ignite with purpose. I remember the first time you told me a story about a brave little mouse who dared to dream. It was such a silly tale, but you made every detail come alive. I continued. He wanted to explore the world beyond his little field. He left breadcrumbs behind so he could find his way back home. As I wove the tale of the brave little mouse, I could sense Grandma's hand growing warmer, her fingers slightly tightening around mine in what felt like an almost imperceptible acknowledgement. My heart soared at the thought that she might still be tethered to the land of the living, that perhaps she was fighting to grasp onto the threads of our shared memories. The dim glow above seemed to flicker as if resonating with the life in my words. But then, abruptly, the door swung open again, and the sharp intrusion of reality cut through our fragile cocoon. A nurse rushed in, her brow furrowed in urgency. We need to check her vitals, she said, her tone brisk yet patient as she began to assess Grandma. In that moment, the warmth I had worked so hard to create dissipated, leaving behind only a brutal chill of fear and uncertainty. I felt lost once more, as if knocked off course by an unseen wave. I hesitated, caught between continuing my stories and retreating into the shadows of despair once again, struggling to decipher the nurse's urgency. Elena, however, was unyielding. Stay with her, she insisted, nudging me gently but firmly. Your voice is what will reach her. I nodded, steeling myself against the nurse's brisk movements. Grandma, I said, drawing closer, my voice soft yet brimming with fervor. I'm here. We're still telling stories. Remember the brave little mouse? The words poured forth, acting as balm against the harsh intrusion of statistics and numbers flooding the room. As I spoke, I felt the weight of dread creeping back, a sense that my time was slipping. The nurse exchanged looks with the doctor, their expressions unreadable, but the tension in the air only deepened with each heartbeat. I could feel optimism wavering, entangled within threads of fear that I desperately fought against. But then I caught sight of Elena, seated on the edge of a chair, her gaze locked onto mine with an intensity that ignited a spark of energy within me once more. In that moment, she seemed to channel an energy that washed over me, a sense of shared understanding, unspoken but as potent as the thrum of life required to combat the encroaching shadows. Suddenly, Grandma's tiny fingers moved again, brushing against mine with surprising strength. I faltered, my breath hitching in my throat as a wave of disbelief surged through me. Grandma? My voice trembled. Was it wishful thinking, or could she truly respond to me? The nurse turned abruptly, eyes widening as if she had felt the change in the air as well. The doctor shifted position, his posture subtly changing from one of detached observation to tentative hope. I leaned closer, heart racing in sync with the rhythm of Grandma's labored breaths. It's okay, I murmured, cupping her hand now, trying to channel every ounce of love within me. Just hold on a moment longer, okay? Remember the brave little mouse? He knows how to find his way home. Before I could finish, her eyelids fluttered widely, and for a split second they opened, revealing a sliver of brilliance that sent warmth flooding through me, a signal that she not only heard me but was fighting back. Then came the noise of alarms ringing out around her, the urgency slicing through us, and I felt trapped in an overwhelming storm of emotions. "Doctor!" the nurse shouted, urgency knotting the air thickly again. A flurry of activity erupted, and I could only hold on desperately to Grandma's hand, tears pooling beneath my lashes as my voice grew fainter with every heartbeat. "Don't leave," I pleaded, my voice drowning in the chaos, watching as the medical team swarmed around her with a determination that mirrored my own. The story I wove felt like a lifeline tossed in turbulent seas, but would it be enough? As they worked to stabilize her, my heart sank, and I wondered if the light I had seen moments before was a flicker of hope or the last strand of grace fleeting from my grasp. And in that moment, deep within the cacophony, I dared to believe that perhaps the bravest story was yet to unfold, one that might surprise us all amidst the heartache. But just as I felt a surge of resolve to keep speaking, a chilling thought struck deep, the doctor's worried expression, laden with weighty silence. What if the story I so desperately wished to share came with an unexpected ending? Would we be ready? Would I be ready for the truth, fragile and heartbreaking? With each moment that unfolded, we now danced on the precipice of something profoundly shifting, teetering between life and an uncharted emotional wilderness. The stakes were rising, and I could sense the moment drawing near where we would either embrace the light or be swallowed whole by the night. I never imagined my grandma's heartbreaking journey would lead to an unbelievable transformation. The sterile smell of antiseptic morphed into an essence I couldn't quite place, sharp yet strangely comforting. The chaos surrounding me faded into a low hum, a distant echo punctuating my thoughts. I found myself frozen, hand clinging to Grandma's, watching as the medical team barked orders, their movements a blur of practiced urgency. Every beep and whir of machinery now seemed to drum a symphony of dread in my heart, reverberating with the anxiety threatening to consume me whole. "Stay with her," Elena whispered, pulling me gently from my stupor. The weight of her encouragement, infused with love and unwavering determination, anchored me. "She needs you more than ever." With a deep breath, I leaned closer to Grandma, willing my voice to reach her amid the whirlwind. "Come back, Grandma. Just hold on. I need you," I urged, feeling the heat of her hand inadvertently growing warmer with my touch. "We have so many stories left to share. Remember how we picked wildflowers together? You said each one had its own secret waiting to be discovered." The nurse worked tirelessly to stabilize her heartbeat, tossing out commands to one another. "Increase oxygen flow. We need more saline." But in the heart of turmoil, I found a sliver of solace in the steady thump of Grandma's heart beneath my palm. Somehow it felt as if it was still synchronized with my own. Then, in an unexpected shift of energy, I felt Grandma's fingers twitch once more. It was a small movement, almost imperceptible, yet it sparked a flurry of hope inside me. My heart raced and every fiber of my being focused intently on her. "You're still here," I murmured, nearly choking on the emotion swelling in my throat. "Fight, Grandma. Remember our brave little mouse? He overcame every challenge. You're his hero." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the medical team seemed to stabilize her, and the tension in the room shifted slightly. The alarms quieted, and the silence that followed rang unbearably loud in my ears. My gaze remained fixed on Grandma, desperate for any sign that her spirit was still connected to this world. In that silence, I captured Elena's gaze again, and for a brief moment, the fear in her expression melted into one of quiet pride. She stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "You did it," she said with a tremor of wonder in her voice. Your stories reached her. But just as the hope surged, it was crushed beneath a weight of unresolved fear as the doctor moved closer. He pulled me aside gently. "Can we speak for a moment? In private?" Despite the calmness in his tone, my pulse quickened, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. I nodded, bracing for the worst, as I followed him to a corner of the room. I couldn't help but feel my heart beating louder, drumming through my veins. Elena lingered near Grandma, her watchful gaze a reminder that we were still tethered, that hope hadn't abandoned us entirely. "Your grandmother's condition is serious," the doctor began, his voice low and measured. "She fought back just now, which is a good sign, Booty, she?" I stammered, unable to finish my question. Deep down I feared the answer, wished to shield myself from the truth that had lurked in the shadows since the moment we stepped into the hospital. She's a fighter, he said carefully, his eyes searching mine as if trying to gauge the deepest parts of my heart. But her body is wearing thin. We need to be prepared for whatever comes next. There's something we might consider. A lump formed in my throat. What do you mean? He paused, running a hand through his hair as though preparing for a difficult confession. There's a new treatment, experimental, but it comes with high risks. It's untested in her age group. My heart sank. But it could help her? I felt the walls close in, a desperate hope flickering against the stark reality before me. That it may extend her time with you, he replied, an almost imperceptible hint of reluctance in his gaze. But we need to weigh the risks. This could be her only chance at a new lease on life. But the decision is yours to make. Just then the moment stretched unbearably, like a taut string ready to snap. My mind raced, grappling with the enormity of his words. The chance for more, to me a lifeline, yet one that may lead us deeper into turmoil. If I agreed, would it mean more chances for laughter and stories? Or were we merely prolonging the inevitable? As if sensing my turmoil, Grandma began to stir, fluttering her eyelids again, her lips moving softly, as she attempted to whisper something barely audible. Don't leave me, I heard through my panic, a plea that felt both profound and painfully raw. With mounting urgency I turned back to the doctor, emotions swirling dizzyingly within me, blurring the line between desperation and hope. Well, do it, I breathed, every ounce of courage pouring into those simple words. Whatever it takes, well, take that chance. He raised his eyebrows, surprised but nodding in acceptance. I'll prepare the paperwork. As he moved away, Elena rushed back, worry etched in her features. What did he say? What's happening? In that split second, a realm of decisions loomed before me, yet in that moment one truth cut through. The enormous burden of my choice weighed heavily, yet there was no turning back. I took Elena's hands, grounding myself in her presence. I've made a decision, I said, feeling the tremor of anxiety still clinging to my voice. We have to fight for her. She deserves every chance. But before I could finish, an unexpected gasp from Grandma rippled through the room. Both of us turned abruptly, eyes widening as she blinked rapidly, her gaze darting between us, shimmering with a depth of clarity that both frightened and captivated us. Where am I? She mumbled, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it left us paralyzed, caught between confusion and a strange sense of awakening. It was as though, in that moment of awakening, she had stepped beyond the bounds of our grasp, and the atmosphere shifted again, charged with an unexplained energy that spoke of connections deeper than any stories we had shared. Elena and I exchanged bewildered glances, the air thick with unspoken realizations. In standing by her side, had we perhaps ignited something within Grandma? Could it be that her journey, fraught with heartache, led us toward a revelation neither of us saw coming? A piece of my heart tumbled as fear coursed back in an indescribable uncertainty mingling with the thrilling anticipation of what lay ahead. In her transient state, what did she know now that she hadn't before? What transformation could lie beneath the surface? Before we could delve deeper into what these unprecedented changes might signify, the doctor returned, clipboard in hand, ready to usher us into yet another chapter of this unpredictable story. And so, as we stood together, grandmother, granddaughter, and friend facing the unknown, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the brink of healing or the beginning of something even more profound? The journey we all faced was only just beginning, and as we held on to one another, we would need to bravely unravel the threads of what might follow. The air in the hospital room felt electric, charged with anticipation and an unsettling tension. Grandma's feverish gaze flitted from me to Elena, each blink more profound than the last. Where am I? She repeated softly, and the simple question sent a ripple of panic through me. It was as if she were trying to piece together fragments of a puzzle that had somehow been lost along the way. Grandma, you're in the hospital, I replied gently, squeezing her hand, willing her to return to the warmth of familiarity. You're fighting just like you always taught me. We're right here with you. Her brow furrowed, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as if a recognition flickered behind her eyes. Fighting, she echoed, a hint of confusion mingling with something deeper, like she was grappling with the very essence of her strength. Elena inhaled sharply, her eyes darting between us. Do you remember, Grandma? We're here because you're brave. And we love you. But Grandma's gaze shifted, her thoughts spiraling somewhere far beyond us, wrapped in a veil of memories both recent and forgotten. The wildflowers, she murmured, her voice a mere breeze wafting through the chaos. We used to. Oh, they were so beautiful. Yes, I pressed, desperate to tether her back to us, to the moments we had spent collecting those flowers in the sun-drenched fields. And we can find them together again just like before. A flicker of a smile, barely perceptible, danced on her lips, and I held onto it, me lifeline amidst this storm. But just as quickly her smile faded, and the weight of uncertainty came crashing back. But what if I can't go back? The question pierced my heart, resonating with fears that clashed within me. Then we'll figure it out together, I said, wiping away the beads of sweat gathering on my brow. You're not alone. You never have been. Yet, as the words left my mouth, a hollow tremor echoed in my chest. The reality of my assurance intertwined with the knowledge of her fragile state. The doctor's warning loomed like a dark cloud overhead, threatening our tender moment. In the depths of my fear, I craved to protect her, to shield her from the harsh truth. But Grandma needed clarity, not illusions. A silence enveloped us, thick and heavy. The whir of the machines faded once more, leaving only the sound of breaths, mine, Elena's, and Grandma's, as she fought to reconcile her reality with the shifting depths of her consciousness. Then, suddenly, Grandma's voice broke the hush, wavering but strong. I felt something. My breath hitched. What did you feel? I asked, encouraging her to share, to delve deeper into whatever transformation was awakening inside her. There was light, she murmured, gaze growing distant as if recalling a vision only she could see. And then darkness. But I could hear you both like whispers through the fog. Elena squeezed my hand, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and worry. Grandma, do you think you were dreaming? I don't know, she admitted, more to herself than to us. Her voice laced with wonder and confusion. But it felt important. It was freeing. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Can you tell us more? I prompted gently. What did you feel when you heard us? Did it help? She paused, visibly gathering her thoughts. I felt loved, Grandma finally professed, her voice trembling. Like I was floating. Like I could be anywhere and everywhere at once. Elena snatched a breath, her features knitting together. Grandma, that's amazing. You're more than just your body. You are all of you. You shape our hearts. But Grandma's frown returned, deepening. But what if I'm not meant to come back? What if this is just a stop on a longer journey? I felt the ground beneath me shift as the weight of her words pressed upon me. My heart raced, a chaotic symphony of emotions threatening to sweep me away. Would I have to face the possibility that I might lose her, even after our fierce determination to fight for her? Before I could respond, the doctor stepped back into the room, clipboard in hand, and the air crackled with palpable tension. I need to discuss the next steps, he announced, his voice stoic yet considerate. We're ready to start the new treatment. I must warn you though, it can cause unpredictable side effects, and the decision to proceed, well, it's not one I take lightly. Grandma, I turned to her, panic swirling inside me as I sought her gaze. It's your choice. We can do this together. But what if the light leads me somewhere else? Her voice trembled, uncertainty reflecting in her eyes as she sought clarity in the chaos that engulfed us. The doctor shifted nervously, but before he could speak again, Grandma lifted her chin, determination sparking anew in her eyes. Fighting means being close to you, then I will fight. We owe it to the wildflowers. An air of resolve settled around us, binding our spirits as I yielded to her unexpected bravery. Then it's settled, I affirmed. We'll embrace whatever comes next together. But as I spoke the words of assurance, an unsettling silence fell over the room. Just then, the monitor began to beep an alarming rhythm, echoing loudly in the stillness. Panic stripped through me as I turned to the doctor. What's happening? He rushed to Grandma's side, the tension crackling, electrifying the atmosphere. Stay calm, he called to the nurses. Increased oxygen flow. We need assistance. Hand trembling, I looked back at Grandma, whose eyes darted in panic, fear fighting against her newfound resolve. Don't leave me, she choked out, the raw plea snapping my heart into pieces. But then, a flicker of something transcendent flashed in her gaze. Light! She yelled suddenly, her voice cutting through the din. It's coming! The room oscillated between chaos and confusion as we stood frozen, frayed threads of emotions weaving just out of reach. What did Grandma see? Was this a metaphor for life or a deeper revelation of our shared journey? Hope and fear twisted together, leaving an inescapable cliffhanger that I desperately wanted to unravel as the team rushed in. The bright lights of the room flickered, sparking shadows across Grandma's face, and I was left praying that the light wouldn't lead her away from us, but instead ignite a transformation that we would all share. The journey of healing was just beginning, but what lay at the other end was an uncharted territory that loomed ahead, filled with breathtaking possibilities and haunting uncertainties. The air grew thicker, a palpable blend of fear and hope. I gripped Grandma's hand tighter, my knuckles white against her frail skin. The cacophony of voices faded around us, and time itself felt suspended as if the very fabric of reality had shifted in that suspended moment when she had cried out for the light. I surveyed the chaos, the doctors orchestrating their urgent commands, the nurses rushing in with supplies, and Elena standing frozen, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. "Ma'am, we need you to stay with us," one of the nurses said, her voice steady, in stark contrast to the tremors in my heart. I could feel the pulse of the room, a mixture of adrenaline and uncertainty coursing through my veins. "Grandma, please," I whispered, my voice a fragile thread. "Stay with us. We love you. Focus on us, on the wildflowers." But an unsettling recognition flickered in Grandma's eyes, a deep awareness that bordered on the mystic as she shuffled between realms. "The light, it's calling me," she breathed almost reverently, while her face illuminated with a glow that belied her weary condition. "It's so beautiful I can't ignore it." "Elena, hold her other hand," I instructed, the urgency threading through my tone. "Grandma, can you hear us? Focus on the sound of our voices. You're not alone." I could see the door to her consciousness cracking open, an uncertain divide between her stubborn will and the pull of the unknown. Just then the monitor alarmed again, vibrating through my chest like a drumbeat, quickening my pulse. It was becoming increasingly chaotic, yet somewhere within that turbulence Grandma's gaze anchored me. "I see all of you," she said slowly, her voice almost a caress. "All your souls intertwined. We've always been connected, but now I can feel it." Tears streamed down Elena's cheeks, but a flicker of determination burned in her eyes, much like Grandma's. "Then let us stay connected. Fight with us. Remember the fields. Remember the laughter." Grandma's breath grew ragged, but she focused on Elena's insistent words, summoning strength from our shared memories. "The laughter, it was so bright," she murmured, eyes narrowing as if grappling with dimensions unseen. "I remember the sun, the warmth." But before she could finish, the doctor pressed a button on the monitor, and everything escalated. The curtain of anxiety that had settled around us thickened with each urgent beep and command issued. I felt airborne, leaving the surface of my reality behind, even as I remained rooted by Grandma's frail hand in mine. "Get her the stabilizers. Now," the doctor barked, swift movements blurring before my eyes. My heart lurched as harsh lights reflected off their hurried figures, imbuing the room with an unsettling glow that danced around the shadows. "What if," Grandma breathed, her voice low but urgent, "what if I'm meant to let go?" "No," I shouted, surprising even myself with the force of my conviction. "You are meant to fight. You're our anchor. You taught us to be brave. We need you." The words flowed from deep within, the truth of my heart crashing against the dark tide of uncertainty that threatened to pull her under. Her frown deepened, dualities battling behind her gaze, fear wrestling with courage. The whispers of light danced around us, weaving in and out of reality, and in that fractured space, I saw a tear slip from the corner of her eye, glimmering with the weight of possibilities. At that moment, something unexpected shifted. The nurse leaned closer, softening her tone, as if the chaos had parted to give room for compassion. "Grandma, we are here to help you. You are not alone, and you have the choice. Whatever journey you decide to take, we will honor it together." I watched as the gentle touch of kindness sparked a flicker of resolve in Grandma's spirit. "Together," she whispered, her voice trembling as she sought our hands with newfound urgency. "You are my strength. If I must go into the light, I want to take you with me." The air in the room crackled with a sudden energy, a shimmering cascade of hope pouring from her words. Rage coursed through my veins, righteous anger against the fate that loomed. Anger that threatened to snatch away the woman who had nurtured every lesson and every tenderness in my life. I barely controlled my rising tide of emotions, desperation clawing at my throat as I fought to keep her here with us. "Grandma," I said, my voice shaking, though I tried to steal it. Please don't talk like that. We will face every challenge together. Remember, the wildflowers flourish only when nurtured. Please don't leave us before it's time. We still need you here. But before I could finish, another beep cut ominously through our fragile resolve. This sound sharper, harsher, resonating with an impending dread that rose over me like a storm building on the horizon. We're losing her. One of the doctors cried out, their urgency slicing through our piecemeal calm. The room began to spin. Reality constricted around me, turning moments into fragments. I could feel Grandma's grip loosening, her eyes glazing over as the light called to her yet again. The distance between us felt interminable. "Elena!" I shouted amidst the chaos. "Together!" she echoed back fiercely, pressing her palm against Grandma's fragile skin. "We're together, Grandma. We'll always be with you. Just hold on." And just like that, with the dark shadows of uncertainty creeping closer, Grandma turned toward the light, a teeny strand of hope woven into her very being. "I choose to stay for the wildflowers," she choked out, her voice piercing through the chaos once more. Then, the monitor flatlined. An unbearable silence anchored us to the reality unraveling before our eyes. The realization slashed through my heart, a gnawing void in the pit of my stomach. Just like that, the air left the room, the light dimmed, and shadows cast their grip over our souls. The stillness that followed was deafening. We stood in the silence, feeling as if the world itself had come to a halt, suspended between hope and despair. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, the rhythm erratic, pounding out a desperate prayer as the doctors rushed forward, their faces masks of urgency and disbelief. The ping of the monitor had smoothed into a haunting hum, an echo of dreams unrealized, a cloak of dread settling over us like FOMO. "No, no," I cried, the words tumbling from my lips as helplessness surged within me. I couldn't accept it. I refused to acknowledge this cruel twist of fate. My gaze darted between Grandma's serene face and the frantic motion of medical professionals, a frantic part of me wanting to scream, to claw back the moments that had slipped through my fingers. "Step back, please. We're trying to stabilize her." A voice called out, but it felt so distant, as if I were submerged underwater, fighting against the current to break free. "Elena, hold her hand," I whispered frantically, my own fingers digging into Grandma's arm, hoping her warmth would pull her back from the brink. "Please. You can't leave us. We need you." Time stretched painfully, each second a weight I couldn't bear. I took a shaky breath, letting the tears slip down my cheeks, blurring the lines of reality. I could feel the warmth of Elena's shoulder as she leaned into me, both of us grasping onto the fading whisper of Grandma's spirit. Then something remarkable happened amidst the tumult. I noticed a flicker of movement, an unusual shimmer of what could only be described as light spilling across Grandma's form, transforming the sterile environment around us into something almost ethereal. The doctors paused, confused murmurs rising around us as the air grew heavy with anticipation. It felt as if some unseen force was pulling at the very essence of the moment, rolling back despair like a tide gently retreating to reveal a shimmering seashore. "Oh, you see that?" Elena's voice trembled with a mix of awe and fear. "It's like her energy is coming back." "Grandma," I pleaded, loud enough for the before lifeless atmosphere to flicker with recognition. "If you can hear us, we are right here. Fight for us. Please." The shimmering light intensified, cascading over her body like petals caught in a spring breeze, swirling vibrant colors that seemed to pulse with every beat of her heart. The doctors exchanged stunned looks as their frenzied efforts stuttered, the air electrified with a shared, yet uncertain hope. "Stabilizers now?" Another doctor's voice rang out, yet it felt diminished in the face of this rising phenomenon. "Grandma, please. Come back." I reached out further, grasping her hand tighter as the lights danced like fireflies, illuminating the room with an almost otherworldly glow. "You have to stay. We won't let you go." And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the shimmering light halted, and an overwhelming warmth washed over me. For one fleeting moment I could feel her breath on my cheek, a soft whisper breaking through the boundaries between life and death. "I am here. Remember," she murmured, her voice a mingling of both despair and strength, laced with a tinge of the ethereal. "Never forget the wildflowers." My own voice trembled, a patchwork of memories floating between us, the fields we had roamed, laughter dancing along with the wind. The doctors scurried in the background, their clinical urgency redoubling as they tried to comprehend the phenomenon unfolding before them. And then, as the world around us came crashing back into stark focus, Grandma began to squeeze my hand, a flicker of life igniting in her gaze. "You are my wildflowers. You've always been." With that, the room exploded into chaos again. Monitors screeched for Pump's word, and the doctors surged forward with renewed urgency. Yet amidst their frantic movements, an unexpected warmth enveloped me, swirling between the connection we shared. Perhaps it was the very essence of hope igniting a different path, a new beginning within the grip of potential loss. Elena leaned closer, her eyes wide, sparkling with disbelief. "What is happening, Selah?" "Something is changing, I can feel it," I breathed, unable to articulate the profound shift occurring in that very moment. "It's as if she's coming back to us." Suddenly, with a distinct jolt, the lights overhead flickered, shadows darting erratically. The hum of the machine surged back to life, and in that kaleidoscope of uncertainty and unreal beauty, Grandma's breath settled into a steady rhythm. But just as we began to gather ourselves within this blossoming hope, the lead doctor turned sharply, his face etched with a chilling expression. "We need to discuss the procedure. Something is very wrong here." Before he could finish, a piercing scream erupted from the hallway, freezing time anew. The chaotic shift unraveled even further as fear crackled through the air, leaving me standing at the precipice of revelation and dread. "Elena, what was that?" My voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know," she murmured back, her eyes wide with terror and uncertainty. The hollow void of impending change loomed heavy, yet somewhere beneath it, like the heartbeat of a distant storm, I could feel Grandma's energy pulsing, thrumming with hope, tethered between realms. What was coming next? The truth of it snaked around my heart, shrouded in layers of mystery, and all I could do was cling to the warmth of Grandma's hand, the relentless whisper of the wildflowers echoing in my mind as the door to the unknown slowly creaked open before us. The hallway burst open, and a group of medical staff rushed in, faces pale, eyes wide with fear. I had never seen such urgency in a hospital before, and the palpable tension engulfed us. My heart raced, pounding violently against my ribcage, the scene unfolding like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. "Get the defibrillator," a nurse shouted, her voice sharp yet trembling, echoing off the sterile walls. The shouts melded with the ominous beeping of the monitors, creating a symphony of chaos that resonated deep within my chest. "Selah." Elena gripped my arm tighter, her own fear leaking through the cracks of her usually steady demeanor. I glanced at Grandma, the gentle rise and fall of her chest so fragile yet so defiant. Could this really be the moment she fought her way back to us, only to lose it again in the maelstrom that was about to erupt? "What's happening?" I gasped, my voice raw like sandpaper. Before she could respond, the definitive roar of the defibrillator resonated through the room, jolting us into silence. "Clear," a voice bellowed, and I squeezed Grandma's hand as tightly as I could, a silent vow rippling through my fingers. The electric shock coursed through the air, a stark jolt of desperation rippling through me just as fiercely. "Stay with us, Grandma," I pleaded, my breath hitching in my throat. "We need you here." I turned then, following the anxious movements of the hospital staff, their frantic choreography fast becoming a horrific ballet of life and death. The growing sense of dread pressed against my chest like an iron fist. Everything felt unreal, surreal even, and I found myself slipping into that paradox where I was both a distant observer and wholly immersed in the chaos of the moment. Then one of the nurses, her eyes wide with determination, moved to my side. "Your presence is important," she told me, her voice a soft anchor in the tempest. "Talk to her. Tell her stories. It can help." But how could I summon stories amid this overwhelming dread? My mind was a jumble, racing through years filled with laughter, shared dreams, and countless afternoons spent in the garden. I focused, forcing the words out past the lump in my throat. "Do you remember the time we planted the wildflower seeds, Grandma? You said the more colors, the more joy. You always knew how to find beauty in the simple things." In that moment, a soft sigh escaped Grandma's lips. The rhythmic struggle of her breathing faltered, and a collection of seconds thundered about me, as if time itself was holding its breath. "Elena, hold her hand too," I urged, my heart racing as I felt my throat constricting tighter. Together we clasped her frail fingers, enveloping her in our shared warmth, binding her spirit to ours, pulling her out of the grip of the unknown. Moments passed. With each surge of energy, the oscillating beeps of the monitors, The shouts of the medical team. I felt my memories of those wildflower fields lapping at the edges of my control, tugging me against the tide of despair. Suddenly, amidst the anxiety and clamor, I caught a hint of a melody, faint yet distinct, weaving through the chaotic silence like a soft breeze. The nurse had begun humming a gentle tune, one I recognized from countless childhood afternoons. And the wildflowers dance. She crooned softly, pulling my consciousness back to Grandma's spirit, which felt more than just a fleeting memory but a tether, connecting us to a profound essence of love. With every note she sang, hope burgeoned in the quiet spaces between breaths. I immersed myself in the melody, surrendering to the raw, heartbreaking beauty of the moment. Grandma, you taught me to find magic in the mundane. You always said wildflowers have a way of rising against the odds. You are our strongest wildflower, and we need you to flourish. Come back to us. But just as the air grew thick with a tangible sense of unity and hope, something sinister whispered beneath the surface, coiling around my senses. A shadow darted past the doorway, unnoticed by the staff but impossible to ignore by me. Something was coming, something dark, lurking beyond the threshold like a two-faced vision of reality. Selah, what's wrong? Alina's voice cut through my racing thoughts. I don't know, I breathed, dread pooling in my stomach as my eyes darted toward the flickering lights overhead. The air became thick with an undeniable foreboding. The lead doctor stepped through the door, his eyes flickering with uncertainty as he scanned the room. We have to act now. Time is against us, and this is not just about her anymore. His voice trembled. The steel that had previously tempered his demeanor was unraveling before our very eyes. With what? My question hung heavy. I didn't understand. And then in that heart-stopping moment, he paused, locking eyes with me. The weight of unspoken fears pressing between us. There's a complication, unexplained energy surging around her. It's interfering with our equipment, and we need to clear the room. What do you mean? I cried, feeling the abyss of uncertainty begin to draw me into its depths. He hesitated, then leaned closer, lowering his voice. Selah. There's a chance that something otherworldly is at play here. If we can't stabilize her, there may be more at risk than just her life. Panic set in, hot and blinding. Their desperation now seeped into my veins, laced with the haunting melody, tangled with Grandma's warmth. My fear tightened around me like an iron shroud, cutting off the hope I had so desperately clung to. But even in this dark moment, something stirred, deeper than the fear. A rush of wildflowers breaking through concrete, a fierce determination to fight for the one we loved. Then we'll fight. We won't back down, I declared, stepping forward, heart pounding against my ribcage in harmony with Grandma's struggles. You can't ask us to leave her. Alina's grip tightened on my hand, her eyes reflecting the same mix of fear and bravery. Just as the doctors turned back to their frantic chaos, I felt a pulse of energy wrapping around us, wild and raw. My heart raced. What did it mean? With every beat, I felt Grandma's spirit lifting as if it was settling into me, her love surging through every fiber of my being. Let's go, the doctor urged, but the moment hung in the air, mottled with everything we stood to lose. And then, just as I thought it couldn't escalate further, a crack of thunder rumbled in the distance, echoing through the hospital walls, shaking me to my core. With a sudden realization, I turned, locking eyes with Elena. We can't leave her. Not now. But as the lights flickered again, casting shadows that danced along the walls, a terrifying uncertainty loomed between us that might reveal the inevitable truth that amounted to more than just a fight for Grandma's life. Selah. A voice whispered behind me, barely audible yet piercing through the clamor of chaos. It was Grandma's voice, faint yet resonant, calling me back with both warmth and wrath, a storm brewing in her depths as the echo of her wildflowers faded against the roar of the world around us. I suddenly confronted the undeniable gulf of reality that separated futures from past, an unseen fabric of possibility stretching long and wide before me, teetering on the edge of revelation. What lay on the horizon beyond the door? What fates awaited us as I clung desperately to this fleeting moment of hope? I stepped closer to Grandma, heart racing, breath quickening, and turned toward the gaping doorway, ready to plunge into the unknown. As the cacophony of voices enveloped me, I realized I was standing at the precipice of something immeasurable, something that transcended the ordinary boundaries of life and death. Grandma's warmth still thrummed beneath my fingertips, But the fear that threatened to overtake us all began to coalesce into clarity. I looked at her, whose breath felt like the fragile whisper of a wildflower swaying in an unseen breeze. I would not abandon her. Hold on to the wildflowers, Grandma, I shouted, terror flooding my veins. We are here. You are not alone. Her eyes fluttered as if grasping toward the light that beckoned around us, a thread of reality that wove itself between her spirit and mine. The energy pulsed again, a vibrant surge that echoed through the room. It felt alive, igniting the very air we breathed. I gripped her hand tighter, inviting her warmth to push through the waves of doubt and despair. Stay with us, Elena echoed beside me, her voice steady yet laced with an urgency that matched my own. We've built our love with stories, and those stories are alive in you. Remember the fields, Grandma. Remember the laughter. Each syllable dripped with hope, an offering of solace in this vast unknown. The luminous energy seemed to rise up, an unspoken agreement filling the space around us. Grandma squinted against the light, as though trying to cut through the fog that surrounded her. Come back to us, Grandma, I whispered, feeling as though the very essence of our lives hung in the balance. You are our wildflowers. Fight for the stories yet to be told. There is so much beauty left to share. Did I in that moment? A spark ignited in her eyes, a flicker of awareness cutting through the haze. Selah, she murmured, voice trembling as she reached for me. You hear me? Yes. I'm here, Grandma. And I will always be here, I vowed, tears streaming down my cheeks. The room pulsed, the machine's rhythms swaying, as though the universe itself was echoing every beat of our hearts. Together, she breathed, drawing strength from the connection we shared. Together. Before I realized what was happening, the world outside fractured with an otherworldly brilliance. Light poured through the cracks, a dazzling burst that interlaced with every emotion swirling in the room. It felt as if the universe was embracing us, wrapping its arms around our love, crying out for joy in the face of despair. The doctor and nurses stepped back, bewildered, as the light enveloped Grandma, swirling around her like a kaleidoscope of radiant colors. What is that? Someone whispered, but I hardly heard them, lost in the magic unfolding. Fight, Grandma, I urged, my heart full. Let the wildflowers rise. As if she drew strength from my plea, I watched in awe as the luminescent energy surged brighter, illuminating her frail face, highlighting the strength I once feared was slipping away with every pulse. I felt the connection flare, memories flooding back, laughter reverberating, wildflowers blooming in every laugh and every tear. In that moment her essence intertwined beautifully with mine, merging love with resilience. I felt hope swell where fear had once prevailed. And then it happened. A powerful surge of energy erupted from her, coursing through the room like a wave, illuminating the air around us as if our stories gathered into a hurricane of dreams swirling together. The machine surged back to life, their beeping harmonizing with the rhythm of her heart, the distant call of clear echoing through the air. I gasped as Grandma's breath steadied, understanding etched into her features, a profound realization settling into her soul. The light, she whispered again, a smile breaking the surface of her lips as it illuminated the fragile shadow of her former battles. Yes, the wildflowers always bring the light. Tears fell freely down my cheeks as I witnessed the powerful transformation taking place. You've always been our light, I cried, overwhelmed by the emotional tide that threatened to sweep me under. You've always shown us the way. I felt her fingers tighten around mine, warmth radiating from her as the energy surged around us, and suddenly it all made sense. It wasn't just a battle for her life, it was a union of all our stories, the laughter, the losses, the relentless beauty of love. It would not end here. It was merely a transition, an embracing of the wildflowers that thrived against the odds. As the ambience shifted, the tensions of the world receded. Her face glowed radiant and alive, every trace of fear replaced by warmth, clarity, and a fierce sense of purpose. I'm here, she said, voice stronger, breaking through the noisy tapestry of uncertainty. Grandma, I gasped, a clear sound that shattered the final remnants of fear lingering in my heart. You came back to us. You are our wildflower, and we will grow together. The doctor stepped closer, his expression that of awe and confusion, yet uncertainty paled next to the brilliance blooming within Grandma. Her vitals are stabilizing, he remarked, his voice barely a whisper of the miracle unfolding before us. And that breathtaking moment of clarity, everything shifted. Fear became hope, chaos transformed into a unified spirit. Grandma's journey had led her home, and amidst the shadows of uncertainty, I found courage for the stories yet to bloom as we stood together. Holding her hands tightly, Elena and I ready to embrace this new chapter of life, I reveled in the understanding that love knew no boundaries. Every wildflower told a story, every thread intertwined with laughter and light. And that night, beneath the hospital lights, one truth rang clear. The power of love and memory would forever guide our way, unwavering through the storm. Together we are stronger, I whispered, the final affirmation swelling within me, heartache and joy mingled, inseparable, creating a melody as lush and vibrant as the wildflower fields that waited for us in the morning sun. And so, as I held her hand and looked into her eyes, I promised we will rise together.